Today I'm going to show you how do I use Power Map to visualize data from Dynamics NAV. At the end, you will have learned how to use Power Map to visualize and analyze data on a map. To get there, I will follow 5 steps. In the first step, I will introduce Power Map and explain what you need to get started. Then in the next step, I will explain how to get data from NAV into Power Map. In step 3, I will follow different ways how you can visualize your data in Power Map. In the next step, I will explain what are layers and scenes. And in the last step, I will demonstrate how you can play and share a tour. So in the first step, I'm going to introduce you to Power Map and what you need to get started. Now, the first thing to do is to open the browser and go to the Microsoft Power BI website, as you can see. Once we are on the Microsoft Power BI website, we can go actually to the support part of the site, and there we'll be able to scroll down until we see Power Map. Now, Power Map is ideal for creating a story about geographic data. Power Map is a 3D visualization and add-in for Excel, which can be used for mapping, exploring and interacting with geographical and temporal data, enabling people to discover and share new insights. Power Map is actually available for download, and it's also available in Office Professional Plus 2013, and Power Map is also included in Office 365. So once we download the file, we are able to install it. I'm just going to save it right now, and then I'm going to run it. Now, behind the scenes, Power Map is always going to work with a Power Pivot data model. This means that if you are selecting a data range or a table as a data source, Power Map will first silently load it into Power Pivot behind the scenes. So for that reason, I would recommend you load your data yourself into Power Pivot before launching Power Map. Now I'm going to create and select a data source, and I'm going to do this by using an NAV OData web services and Power Pivot. Now in this demonstration, I have created a virtual machine which is actually available in the Windows Azure. You can select it from the gallery. It's a Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 environment which you can download and get started, and it's going to be pre-installed. Once the machine is deployed, you are able to run a number of scripts which will set up the machine. And then we are also going to get a number of query and other objects available in the database, which I'm then going to publish, or which are automatically published as web services, and I'm going to use them in the following demonstration. So if we go into Excel and then into Power Pivot, as you can see, I have imported some pages and query objects, and then I published them as OData web services. Now we have them available here in the data model. As you can notice, I have created a relation between the sales invoice line and the customer table to be able to use customer information or customer fields as attributes in Power Map. Then there's also a relation to the item table in a similar way, and I have also the salespeople available. Once you create your data model, I recommend to have a look at the individual datasets and improve them by, for example, removing columns and or applying filters. Here I'm selecting a different format for the posting dates, and then I'm also applying a filter on the type to only show items. In the next step, we are going to decide how to visualize our data on a map and discover how Power Map allows us to do that. Keep the following terms in mind. A tour is the outermost container for Power Map, although an Excel workbook can contain multiple tours. Analog to a Microsoft PowerPoint presentation, each tour is actually made up of one or more scenes. A scene is similar to a slide in a PowerPoint deck, and a scene will display a map. The map contains one or more layers. Now, a layer is actually a geographic mapping, for example states, with a specific type of visualization, for example columns. Multiple layers can be added to a map to provide rich visualizations. And if the underlying data contains historical information, a layer can be bound to a date field to provide additional visualizations, just as you might add animations to a PowerPoint slide. In Power Map, I'm going to create a new tour. Then in the tour editor, the next thing to do is to set up the geography. I'm going to do this by selecting information from one or more tables coming from the Power Pivot model. Here I'm going to make use of the customer model. I will then select the country region codes. Then here I can say that I would like the country region code from the Power Pivot to be linked to the countries of the map. As soon as we do this, you notice the countries are plotted on the map, and you can set the zooming with these buttons. Then in the next screen, Power Map indicates how accurate the mapping is by indicating it via the confidence percentage. If the percentage is low or moderate, you can improve it by updating the country or city names in the data model and to have a better mapping. The next thing to select is what to show as a value. I'm going to use the amount for this. Amount is now going to be added to indicate the height. A legend is also automatically added, which I will remove. You can immediately see the bars on the map. I'm then going to adjust the pan to have a better view of the data. Then I will look for the date field in the data sets, and I'm going to drag it onto the time box to create a timeline. Now, depending on the invoice dates in the dataset, I can now play my data on a timeline. You're also able to select the field to become a category if you would like to have an extra filter. The way that the data is visualized can also be changed. For example, you can select a histogram, we can select bubbles, a heat map, or we can change it to region to make it easier to interpret the information on the map. Then there are also some options available on top of the ribbon to add text boxes, to select the theme, and we can include map labels, we can also convert it into a flat map, and so on. In the next step, we are going to decide how to visualize our data on a map and discover how Power Map allows us to do this. I will add an extra layer on the map so we can show more information. In this new layer, I will select the city field. When we do this, the cities are plotted on the map. Then we click Next. You notice that the confidence for the cities is only 83%. So if we open the confidence meter, you will see the data that was not mapped, and we can figure out how to improve the confidence. On the map, the cities are displayed with a different color. For the height in the cities visualization, I'm going to select the amount field from my data model. This will come from the sales invoice line query. And I'm going to select the bubble visualization to make it easier to compare cities. You can also hover your mouse over the cities to display an extra tooltip which contains information that comes from the dataset. Interesting to know is that you can include a 2D chart on the map. This chart is based upon one of your layers, which you can select in the drop-down menu. Once the chart is inserted, you can change the chart type. For example, we can change it into a horizontal bar chart. You can change the sorting and also drag it around and resize it. The chart will now act as a filter in Power Map. When we are going to click on one of the bars in this chart, in this case a country, the map is going to be filtered and updated to only show the data coming from this country, in this example Iceland. Now I will go back to the first tour that I already prepared. As you can see in this tour there are two scenes, scene 1 and scene 2. In scene 1 we have two layers available. One is called amount invoiced per country and the other one is quantity invoiced per country. For both scenes I selected different visualizations and I added some filters on the map, for example for the salespersons. Then in the second scene I will show similar information from the same dataset but in a different visualization. The view is completely different, as you can see. It's a flat map and there are data bars available. There's also a timeline which we can play so we can see what happened in the posting period in NAV visualized on a map. In step 5 we are going to play, produce and share our tour. Before we actually produce and share the tour, we are first going to open the layer manager. In the layer manager we can change the settings regarding the animations. We can see the two scenes, we can edit them in the layer options for each of the layers. In the layer options, we can, for example, change the opacity and the color scaling. We can also change the colors for the filters or categories that we previously selected, and we can decide to hide 0 or negative values. Then there are also scene options. For every scene in the scene options, we can change the duration, we can apply some camera angle effects to it, and we can change also the clip speed. Then in the tour editor, you can see all your tours and scenes, and now we can create a video for the tour. In the Create Video Options window, you can select the video format and the quality options, and there's also an option to include a soundtrack. Then via the Create button, we can produce the video, but only if you have a graphics card enabled, which in this Hyper-V machine is not the case. To wrap it up, these were the steps that I followed. First, I introduced you to PowerMap and what you need to get started. Then I used NAV OData web services to get data from NAV into PowerPivot and PowerMap. Next, I selected some visualizations to analyze our NAV data. Then I added a layer to our scene to have another view on our data. And in the last step, I explained how you can play and share a tour. With these 5 steps, I covered these topics. To learn more about designing PowerMap reports, please visit the following resources. Thanks for following this short video to explain how do I use PowerMap to visualize data from Dynamics NAV. This video in the How Do I series for Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 is brought to you by Microsoft and Platan. See you in another one.